flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of businesses, of business areas, and beautify our communities. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Goodland has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 43 years and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now, therefore, we, the City of Goodland, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the City of Goodland and encourage all citizens and businesses to join in the celebration thereof. And we urge all citizens to plant trees and promote the well-being of this and all future generations. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Goodland, Kansas to be affixed this 18th day of April 2022. Okay, that being said, I don't know, Danny, if you want to come up and speak to what we're going to be doing for Arbor Day this year.
Well, the city had purchased 10 trees for the parks here, and then Joni purchased 10 trees for the cemeteries. And we're going to have the Arbor Day ceremony Friday, the April 29th at 1:30 in the southeast corner of Stever Park, south of the tennis courts at the Suzanne McClure Memorial, around that area. And we'll be planting a Canadian chokecherry and a linden tree. And the other trees I bought, I planted Colorado blue spruce out at the Welcome Center by the dog park, and I planted 2 Austrian pines today out by the Van Gogh. And we'll be planting a couple redbud trees at the Pioneer Park up by the Goodland sign, 1 on each side. And then we've got a couple linden trees to go in along Cherry Street there by the Van Gogh, and the rest of the trees will go in at Stever Park. So we'll have the time capsule, so anybody has anything they want to put in there, they're welcome to come put that in a time capsule and put that in. So that'll be the celebration.
All right.
Any questions? Okay.
Hope to see everybody there. Yeah.
Hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Stevie.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have A, 4/4/22 Commission meeting minutes. B, the Joint City County 4/11/22 meeting minutes. And C, the appropriation ordinances of 2022-08, 2022-08A, and 2022-P08.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Redland. Any further discussion, questions? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to formal actions. Mobile food vendor ordinance. Kent, you want to take over?
We had discussed this at the last meeting on April 4th. There was several directions given by the commission at that time. City Attorney Kling has revised the ordinance and made all the adjustments that were requested. Didn't know if Jake had anything else to add to that information. So.
Anybody have any thoughts regarding the ordinance?
Looks good as written.
I did see that as far as the penalty section, it's still pretty much blank. I didn't know if we had decided anything on that. Because it's like I don't know if we just lost a sentence or half a sentence in there, because it just says penalty for any person or entity in violation of this code shall be set forth in, and that's all that's there. So I don't know.
You're just missing the end of it.
I don't
Sentence there.
know what it's supposed to be.
Be there if we agree
Should
to.
be referring to another section of the code, like 2 dash, I can't remember what it is.
It's basically, it's the same code that was like no more than, it's the set amount which was set in that code, right? I think that's what we agreed upon.
And did we do it the same as we were doing it like as the peddler section?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that one is any person, partnership, or corporation who violates any provision of this article shall be guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. That's how that one reads.
Exactly.
So, I know it was on my version, so I'll look at it. We'll get it put in there, but it's gonna correlate with putting your, again, that amounts in there not to exceed so much and all that other stuff. Whether it's a Class B misdemeanor, I don't think that's probably gonna be it. I just have to look. I know that was filled in on my version. Whether that got carried over or not, I don't know. So I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Do we need to hold off until we get those exact numbers, or?
Well, if you're wanting the section, if I remember right, kind of like what Brooke said, you want it to be a range. I don't think that you're, again, because this is a licensing thing, so it's really not going to be a misdemeanor as far as a crime. However, there would be a fine and a penalty associated with it because it's a code violation.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's up to you. It's not absolutely urgent that it would need to be passed this time. We can wait until we have that inclusion within the ordinance. Or you can include it with direction to staff that it include the same information that's on the other licensing. As far as the peddlers.
Okay.
8312 states that whoever is guilty shall be guilty of a Class B misdemeanor,
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
as far as the peddler licensing.
So then, like, do we include, like, in the fine shall be no more than,
State statute says that because of the classification of it being a misdemeanor.
okay, thank
I
you.
thought that it'd be more appropriate for it just to be a code violation, but then you are going to have your fines associated with no more than this. But, so, if you want it to be a misdemeanor, if that's the way you're wanting to go, then that fine amount's going to be set by state statute that simply says, Class A can be no more than 5,000, Class B no more than 2,500, and on down, so.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to go there or not as far as a misdemeanor for a food vendor thing.
I think we'd be better off doing it as an ordinance penalty, as he was saying, but yes.
So give them some leeway, state it like, for it to be no more than, like, match, like the guesstimation of the misdemeanor be.
Well, we can just, if you what, I mean, like I said, there's not a big rush for us to pass this today. If we just want to table it and we can get the wording corrected and just look at it next meeting and,
Okay.
That's it.
well,
That's
that'll
fine.
work for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move on.
To B then. Amending section 4-211 of the contractor license examinations. Kent, if you want to speak to that.
This is the first of two ordinances recommended for approval by the Construction Advisory Board of Trades and Appeals. They looked this over as far as the examinations. One of the examinations in section 4-211 has a contractor exam prepared, proctored, and scored by the city of Goodland prior to January 1st, 1997. I don't think that is applicable anymore in the Construction Advisory Board Trades and Appeals agreed, and they recommended to eliminate that, item A within that section. And that's what the ordinance does.
So basically, we're just cleaning up wording is what we're doing here.
Yeah, removing a test that is applicable in this area.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts on that?
I would move that we approve the amending of section 4-211 of the contractor's license.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard.
Yes.
Redmond.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Yes. And we'll move on to C, amending section 4-215 regarding contractor license certificates.
Again, this was presented to the Construction Advisory Board of Trades and Appeals, and it was basically a change. It required the current code, if you do not pass this ordinance, would still remain as far as that each contractor is required to carry a card with them. This would change it to a certificate, and they could carry it or keep it in their office, whatever would be appropriate for them. So it's just changing that wording. It's pretty specific within the code within it, so.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Is there a reason for the card versus certificate that they come up with?
They brought it up at the Construction Advisory Board. About the only time that it's ever asked for is when OSHA shows up. So that's about the only time
Okay.
that they said that it comes up. And at that time, they said they could have their certificate would work just as well as a card. So.
I move that we approve 4-215, the license certificate.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Howard,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Redlin. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, move on to D, the Chip Rock Delivery Bid Award. Kent?
And this is on behalf of Kent and Keith, the street superintendent, and I guess I'll ask him to come say a little bit about his chip rock that he wants.
All right, well, I guess, I think you guys seen what the bids came in. And so I guess we're wanting to go with the Heartland Carriers at $13.33 was the bid on that. I think there was a Dusty Houston, which was $23, and then Perry White that was $37. So that's a ton. So that's the $13.33 is pretty decent. We had Heartland last year delivered for us, and we didn't have any problems with them. And they're $11.50 last year, so not too much of an increase on their part. So
And they are considerably cheaper than everybody else, so.
yeah,
And where are they getting the material from?
Lamar. So any questions?
I don't think so. Looks like expected start date would be May the 9th, and then completed by the end of June, so. Any other questions?
Looks good.
Thank you, Ken.
I would entertain a motion.
I move that we award the IFB 2022-04 to Heartland Carriers for their bid of $11,997.
Okay, have a motion by Commissioner Redlin,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Redmond.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. And then last on formal actions, we had the renewal of airport board appointments, Jonathan Collette and John Toplett. These are You guys have both been on there currently, right? And we're just renewing at this point.
They are there, and they do contribute to the,
Mhm.
Jonathan contributes all the time, as John does on occasion, so. They are both contribute when they can, so.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts on the two candidates?
Move that we approve the renewal of Jonathan Collette and John Topliff to the airport board.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Redland. Any further discussion? No. Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, discussion items. A, review ordinance requirements for trailer parking on streets. Kent, speak to this, please.
And upon a request from a citizen, let's take a look at the code of trailer parking. The current code basically lumps all kinds of trailers together. Current code only allows any type of trailer to be parked for 2 hours on the street with no difference between utility trailers, semi-trailers, or larger camper or RV type trailers. And I included this section in the communication form from staff regarding it. And it basically states just that, although it has a lot more description of different types of trailers. It says no person shall park or store any heavy truck, tractor, semi-trailer, recreational vehicle, trailer of any kind, farm machinery or boat on any street or alley within the city for a period longer than 2 hours of any day, provided nothing herein shall prohibit the parking of those type of vehicles within the commercial and industrial zones of the city. Provided further, nothing herein shall prohibit the temporary parking of a vehicle or trailer, whether occupied or not, for the purpose of loading or unloading of property or passengers. The police chief, who's not here this evening, Police Chief Hayes and myself discussed it, that as far as utility trailers, there's not as much concern regarding utility trailers on the street, except for visual. And a lot of times utility trailers do not have something that helps mark them on the street, and at night, you know, even as wide as our streets are, someone could run into trailers at any opportune. The bigger concern with the larger trailers and the campers and the RVs and those type of things, the semi-trailers, is visual for people trying to enter their driveways or backing out of their driveways and being able to see the street and oncoming traffic. There's also other concerns regarding pedestrians and everything coming out from behind those type of trailers. So there's a little bit of discussion regarding staff. Don't have, you know, a great opinion one way or the other than utility trailers probably could be parked longer for a longer period of time and not provide any detriment to the city. But it's really just for discussion only at this point.
Yeah, I guess my first question would probably be, how do we determine what exactly is a utility trailer?
You end up with a definition of those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
But do you allow car trailers? You get into a situation, car trailers, utility trailers, gooseneck trailers. Where do you draw the line and how do you differentiate? Because everybody has their own opinion of what a utility trailer is. You can get utility trailers that are 25 feet long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where do you draw the line? That's my issue with it,
Sure.
you know.
And it would have to have a very strong definition of what exactly a utility trailer is, but it's almost easier from an enforcement standpoint to not go that route
Right.
Because you end up with a lot of different arguments about what exactly consists of a utility trailer.
Is my pickup box trailer a utility trailer?
Absolutely
You know?
not. So, no, I'm just kidding.
Right, but yeah, you know, and that's how you look at it. You know, it's a pickup box trailer with a camper mounted on it that's sitting out there. Is it classified a camper or a pickup box trailer that was a utility trailer?
Right.
You know, it's a hard decision for the law enforcement to enforce.
Right. It gets to be difficult.
Did the citizen who made the request have a specific reason as to why they were looking to change?
The only thing that was communicated was that there was some frustration with the 2-hour limit regarding certain types of trailers, and that it really wasn't, shouldn't be as much of a hazard as it is deemed to be, and didn't understand the reason for the 2-hour limit. Because that's a pretty short time frame, especially if you're carrying mowers or other types of things. To have to back that into a driveway instead of on the street was probably the biggest concern that was expressed.
But if it's hooked to a vehicle, we don't have that limit on a trailer, do we?
No.
Right,
So they need to leave it attached.
right. As long as it's attached, there's no problem with it. Unless it's a semi, and then you have to move it back and forth.
Bigger ones, yeah. And that occupies quite a bit of space, obviously, parking-wise. Sometimes neighbors get into issues with each other parking in front of, because the street is a public place. Just had a relative in another city dealing with that regarding vehicle parking in front of their house, so. And the officer came and looked at it and said, no, there's not much more we can do. It's parked and it's parked legally. It's a legal vehicle. It gets to stay. And, so I know those issues can come up, but, that wasn't part of the actual inquiry.
Who constitutes the 2-hour? You know, unless you got chalk marked on the street at a certain time.
Yeah.
Who's gonna guarantee it's a 2-hour?
A lot of it is complaint-based. Complaints received, the officer runs by, then runs by later in the evening. Is it still there?
I think the ordinance that we have written is probably appropriately written and enforced, and, you know, I'd be willing to listen to somebody's discussion about lengthening the time, but I don't think, you know, there needs to be any major changes to it. I like the way it's written.
So do we feel like this is something we want to pursue at all towards making any changes on the ordinance as of now?
I guess I'd be interested to hear what other communities around us, what their ordinances are, just as view. I agree with Jason. I don't think there's anything wrong with ours, but, you know, 2 hours is a short time. It takes me 2 hours to mow my yard, so.
I like the way it's written already.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with the way it's written already.
I kind of feel like the consensus for right now is that we just leave it the way it is, and if we feel like it's something we want to pursue in the future, we can bring it up at a later time.
Sounds good to me.
Does that feel appropriate for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to B, the Kansas Fire and Rescue Training, rent, lease, and office space in the Woolock Building.
Cedric, or not Cedric, I used to live in Cedric County, so it's hardly the same. Sherman County Clerk Ashley Manis had received a request from the Kansas Fire and Rescue Training Institute wanting to rent an office space in the Woolock Building. Talked with Fire Chief James regarding the office space within the building. And according to the lease agreement for the Woolock building, in order for the county to work out an agreement for that, there must be approval from the city prior. So that's why this is being brought to you. The training officer that's involved is actually here this evening. I didn't know if he wanted to speak anything regarding what's occurring or not, or what the request is about.
So essentially, through some job search, KFRTI has hired myself as the Western Region Training Program Coordinator. The Fire Commission had kind of alluded to the fact to KFRTI that Western Kansas was being neglected when it came to fire training. And so that's why they hired me, is to essentially run the Western Region, promote training, coordinate training. And so,
Which is awesome, by the way. Congratulations.
thank you. We're excited. You know, it's going to bring some definitely some benefits to the region, but definitely back to Goodland too. KFRTI is committed to doing the fire school in Goodland once a year now, and we brought in 44 firefighters from around the region a couple weekends ago, along with 12 staff members from KFRTI, and we just see it growing from there. Some prop expansion out of the training site, and so. But essentially continue to utilize the office I've been using as a training officer already, just with KFRTI also, so.
Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Went over this with City Attorney Kling as far as what is the appropriate procedure for getting this done, and Jake basically pointed out is just really us giving direction ahead of time, and that we don't need to, had thought originally that we needed to eventually have an amendment to the agreement, but the city attorney basically pointed me in the right direction and said we just need to give approval. Jake, I didn't know if you wanted to speak further to that.
It's really just this simple. The first thing that they're asking is obviously when they're reached out by the training center or whatever, the county wants to know if we as the city, since we are the actual owner of the building and part of our lease agreement with them, is that they cannot sublease any portion of that building without our written approval. So before they start to go through the process of actually formally writing up a lease agreement with the Training Institute, they would like to just know from us, okay, would you allow us to rent, like, would you even allow us to sublease this? Our answer most likely is yes, pending approval of your formal written agreement. So that's where your actual approval will happen. It's just, because the other thing is, if you as the commission weren't interested at all in them subleasing, then there's no sense in them even bringing forth a written sublease agreement. So that's why, as far as first step, if you're okay with them subleasing it to the Training Institute, say, yeah, go ahead, please give us then a copy of what you're gonna propose as your formal written lease agreement for us to approve. And that becomes the new part of, and that is what complies with our lease agreement with the county, in that you can't sublease it without our written approval, and our written approval is their new sublease agreement.
So basically, are we just looking for a verbal consensus, or do we need an actual motion?
I think you just need a verbal consensus, just because, again, this is really not an action item, it's just saying, yeah, we're interested pending our approval of whatever you put together in the agreement.
Anybody's thoughts?
I think it's a great idea.
It's a good one for me.
Okay. I feel like we're all in favor, so,
Thanks, Matt, for coming here.
thank you. Okay, well, let's move on to reports then.
City Manager Kent?
We gotta get out of the first place. Further down. Couple things that are upcoming. There's the cleanup that's gonna be occurring at the end of next week on the 28th and 29th, on Thursday and Friday. City crews will be out and picking up items from people's driveways during those 2 days. So look forward to that. Did go and talk with the county commissioners at their meeting, last meeting, and requested on the street superintendent put that forward, that it would be much easier if they would go ahead and do that, and they agreed to go ahead and have free pass to the dump on those days for all Sherman County residents. So that way, that prevents county residents from bringing their stuff into the city, dumping it on my driveway for the guys to pick it up, so, or anybody else's driveway, or bringing it onto their own driveway. They can just take it themselves. There'll still be some folks that'll bring it in, but
But I can still fit my stuff on your driveway though, right?
sure.
That's what I was
Absolutely, absolutely. And, but hopefully that'll prevent some additional items from coming into town. We'll see. It seems to reduce it a little bit. The 17th Street, since Andrew's, he's attending another city council meeting this evening over on the other side of the state. He's not able to be with us tonight, but he did state that 17th Street has not started yet. They've been delayed at their current project, so because of wind and other issues. So they'll have a guy here later this week. You may see some the construction detour signs start going up on the corners, not formally up, but just stacked by the end of this week. But it probably will be next Monday that they will be starting. So that's what EBH was saying this afternoon with that project. So they're still looking to get done by June 15th. So with that project, the airport runway project is proceeding apace. They've basically removed all the asphalt from the two ends of the runway. The one little section, the couple hundred feet that's right next to the main runway, that's going to wait until they close down the main runway for that 20-day period. But everything else, the asphalt's been removed at this point. They're now working on the dirt underneath and removing that. And they probably by the end of this week, if not, it'll be the beginning of next week, we'll start putting the millings back in, which will then go into the mixture to rebuild the base for the two ends of the runway. So it is working very quickly. We did not receive as yet, and I wasn't able to add to the agenda, the quitclaim deed for the house. Was hoping to have that by this meeting, so we could include that house in the cleanup and clean up their several items at that house, but we have not received the quitclaim deed back from the property owner as yet. So that has not proceeded as quickly as we thought. The person has received it and has told us that they've received it. They just haven't it's either been mailed and then the mail takes longer than expected, or hasn't been mailed as yet. The housing committee is meeting tomorrow as far as looking over those housing proposals as a result of the two different study sessions that have been over the last few months on housing, and what different proposals should be brought forward for the entire city commission and the county commission to look at. So that housing committee is going to meet tomorrow night. I have two items as far as fees that we have not looked at. One is pool fees, the other is fireworks stands fees. That pool fees the last time it was looked at was in 2019. And they did not approve an increase at that time, and our fees are quite a bit lower than surrounding communities. But that is an item that is not a popular issue, so I didn't want to bring forward and ask you to approve something on the agenda before asking whether to even put it up for some discussion at the next meeting. The same with fireworks stands fees. We only charge fireworks stands $50, which is, when I saw that, this is one of those issues that comes over the manager's listserv, and you see what all the other communities are charging, and, $50 was the lowest of any community that I saw in the entire state of Kansas. So, asking regarding those two things, whether to even bring it up for discussion at a future commission meeting.
Would that fall under the vendor stuff?
Fireworks stands, no, there's a separate code section dealing with it, so.
What was, okay, let's, one at a time. Got fireworks stand going here. What about was the average? Would you
I don't know what
say?
the average, the lowest part of the average was 150. Most of the others were significantly more than that. But even if it was 150 or $200, it's not making money. I mean, it's not a huge money maker, but
Is there a,
I mean, I've been used to communities charging $5,000 for a fireworks stand, even though it's only 4 days or 10 days or whatever of selling fireworks. And they made money with that. Now, I'm not suggesting that. I don't think we're in the same location here to be able to do something like that, but $50 seemed like really.
I don't know how many, licenses we give out every year.
We give about 2 or 3 is what Mary said.
So realistically, unless we're going to significantly increase the dollar amount, it's not gonna make any bottom line difference
No.
as far
it
as our
isn't.
coffers go.
No.
And it's less, I guess, yeah, we may be the cheapest, but I really don't see a good reason to address it no more than it's making for the city. Unless you guys want to look at it and possibly increase rates, but
Yeah, probably not worth the time for another
No.
$200.
No.
Okay.
as far as pool fees go, what is the expectation that the fees that the pool collects pays for? Is the money collected by the pool supposed to pay for the wages, a certain amount of upkeep in the pool? Is there,
Basically nothing.
It's a whole lot of head
Basically
shaking.
Yes.
nothing. The pool is just a service for the community.
It is a community amenity,
Yeah.
and that's the main thing it's for. I just bring it up to because when it was brought up 3 years ago, we were significantly behind neighboring communities. And that's to put more effort into it or to even bring it up. I just brought it up as, should staff bring up a proposal at all?
What are the current fees?
It is $55 for an individual pass, it's $100 for a family pass. And then there's a punch pass and it's $4 daily rate.
What's the average, do you know off the top of your head the average daily from surrounding communities?
The daily usually isn't, yeah, maybe $5 or something. I mean, that was what the proposal was in 2019, $5 for the day. I mean, the daily is not there, it's just,
Yeah. The passes.
whether it's, 2 or 5 or, and that's not to hurt the people with large families, because they're the ones that can't afford it the most, can afford it the least to have it. And it is an amenity and everything else. What is our total revenue, Mary, for pool?
On the gates, it's like 30,000, 27 to 30,000. concessions usually brings in 10 to 12.
And our costs are around.
Labor alone is almost 80,000.
Yeah, it's, 120 or 130. So there's not an expectation to get to even, no.
I just feel like as much as we would all hate to raise any rates, I mean, the cost of everything is going up across the board, including the cost that it's gonna cost to maintain the pool and possibly even pay employees at the pool. I don't know if that's gonna change or not. So I don't know if we need to at least look at it,
I would say, look at it, it's something.
so we can kind of decide then. Because it's gonna, increase in cost is gonna come out of the budget somewhere. You know. So I think it would probably be at least in our best interest to take a look and take in consideration. Yeah. That is my thoughts anyway.
Okay, we can do that. The couple other things that are occurring, the city staff is looking to get prepared to paint the pool at the beginning of May, before we fill it with water. And also, we're working with the senior center. They are going to be doing a project to redo their parking areas, as far as the concrete. And our part of the project will be the gutters that go along the south side and along the east side of the senior center building. The parking areas themselves will be done by the senior center in coordination with the Department of Aging, but the gutters themselves will be ours. So there'll be a slight cost to the city of about a little bit less than $5,000 to be able to do that. So that will be our part of the participation in that project. So they've been talking to us for the last year and a half regarding it. And they will need to get that accomplished before the end of the state fiscal year, which is June 30th. Because that's when the Department of Aging money will be available. So our crews will be involved in that as well. And that's all I have at this point. Oh, one other thing. Neil informed me, the water and superintendent informed me this afternoon that the company has not arrived as yet to pull the pump on well number 3. So that hasn't been accomplished as yet. So still looking for an update on their schedule to get that taken care of. So, and that's all.
Anybody have any questions for Kent? Okay, let's move on to commissioner reports. We'll start on my left here, Commissioner Redland. Commissioner Howard?
I don't have anything either.
Commissioner Myers?
Say nothing at this point.
Commissioner Showalter?
I just had a question. As part of my role with the Alumni Association, I'm starting to get requests for class party locations, and if they ask about a city park, do they need to filter that through you, or do I just need to let Danny know, or how does that work?
Which park and how much of the park and from what time to what time and all those type of
Questions?
We do not reserve parks.
Okay.
I
Reserve
mean,
shelters.
Yeah, it's just first come, first served.
Okay. Would it be helpful if I just let you know?
Yeah, just let me know, because there is some activities going on this summer in different
Okay.
parks that I have in my day book, but if you want to let me know or get together.
Okay. Will do. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay, as far as the mayor report, the only thing I have is if we want to decide as far as our work sessions that we'd been having, we haven't had one in a while. We had kind of come up with a list of things that we prioritized, and we had sent information out to the workers and stuff to see if they wanted to share their opinion. Do we want to look at scheduling a time, either added to one of our regular meetings or another separate meeting, to continue with that discussion and be able to invite whatever city employees and wanted to come and share their thoughts, or they could just turn in their thoughts to Kent and be shared that way. I would prefer that we did not do it next Monday, just because I would like to have at least 1 week where we don't have a meeting. I'm sure other people would appreciate that as well.
Agreed.
But is that something we want to look at into getting scheduled? Do we want to just think about it for another couple weeks and bring it up next meeting and figure it out then? Or
I'm fine with the next time we meet.
Yeah, I'm game to put it on top of a commission meeting.
just add it as part of our next commission meeting?
What
What are your thoughts?
What we would do then is just have the regular session and then adjourn. And then just have a work session afterward.
Okay.
Where it can be a little bit less formal and have a discussion.
Work for everybody? Okay, shall we plan on that? And that's all I had, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Redlin. Second by Commissioner Showalter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Aye.